Hello, it's me, Christine. Welcome to my little crime corner. Welcome to another episode of Things That Live in My Mind Rent-Free. I think about this twice a week minimum. The case, if you even want to call it that, the occurrence maybe, that we're going to be talking about today is the White House party crashers that crashed the state dinner in 2009. I don't know why. So, on November 24th, 2009, Mikhail and Salahis just walked on through the White House, passing two security checkpoints, one of which required a photo ID. So you may be thinking, Christine, who are these people, and why do I care? And I would say, I am so glad you asked. Tarek worked at a winery called Oasis Winery in Virginia that his father started in 1977. He also started his own business at the winery called Oasis Enterprises, which included a wine tourism operation, wine tours, and an events and catering business. There was some friction between him and his family regarding the name and just the company in general. Both of these businesses, I believe, are no longer in operation, with Oasis Wineries filing for bankruptcy in 2008 and Oasis Enterprises filing for bankruptcy in 2009. Mikhail was also sued by two people for not giving tours to the wineries that she was supposed to. Like, how much were these tours? Enough to sue, apparently. It's 2 wine tours, Michael. What could it cost? $10. In May 2013, the property was sold at auction for $1.1 million to satisfy creditors, and since then, the family has had no more involvement with anything Oasis. And Mikhail was allegedly a lot of things. She claimed to be a former Redskins cheerleader, a model, and a former Miss USA, although literally all of the things I have just mentioned have come out with public statements, all saying things like, she was never involved in our organization, who is she, we don't know her. Also, a simple Google, you know? They were also on the very shortly lived Real Housewives of DC, the most boring installment of the Real Housewives universe, which only lasted 1 season. I think there were only like 11 episodes, and they might not have even aired all of them. But Andy and company have since rebranded this chapter as Real Housewives of Potomac, which is also in Maryland. Maryland is so tiny, by the way. Like, when I drive through the skinny part, I'm in and out in like 15 minutes. I'm surprised they found a whole nother city. Anyway, Mikhail was actually filming for the show and getting ready at a salon for over 7 hours before the crash, if you will. Mikhail and Tarek rolled up to the White House and were actually initially turned away after being questioned by White House staff when they couldn't find them on the list for some reason. Because they weren't on it. Meanwhile, Brian Williams, an actual invited guest, reported that he saw the Salahis being turned away from the gate and watched them park, then walk across the lawn to another entrance to try and eventually get in. Through trickery! As adamant as they were about actually being invited, it was later revealed that Tarek had actually contacted the director of a reality show called Blaggers, which literally was a show about party crashing, and asked him for advice about how to trick one's way into a black tie event less than 1 week before the state dinner. Like, what? Why would you, an invited guest, need to trick your way in? You were invited, right? You lost me. As I mentioned, At the time of the crash, Mikhail was filming for Real Housewives, and the crew filmed her getting ready, including getting her hair done at a salon and styling a dress. When crashing a party, in particular a high-profile televised one, and even if it wasn't televised, don't worry, we're bringing our own camera crew. Anyway, when crashing a party, one might think about how one might blend. Most of the party guests would wear black or deep navy blue. Mikhail decided to wear a red and gold sari, which would certainly get a lot of attention. After getting ready, Mikhail and Tarek were then filmed getting into a limo and heading over to the White House. The film crew then captured Mikhail and Tarek being stopped by a person at the gate with a clipboard, who obviously couldn't find them on the list, and had apparently told them to go on to the next gate. Their whole motivation for this was to get attention and build a larger public profile. They had thought that by appearing on Real Housewives, this would, I guess, open up more doors for them, but this only ended up giving them negative attention. Wow, can you believe that? I certainly didn't see that coming. Mikhail was on film saying that she had spoken to the White House social secretary, asking whether or not she thought a sari would be appropriate attire for the function. And Desiree Rogers, the social secretary herself, thought the sari was a great idea. According to Aparajita Mukherjee, a writer for the Times of India, implied that Mikhail had probably bought the sari in New Delhi during a 2009 visit to invite the Indian polo team to participate in the American Polo Cup in 2010. So she had the sari and was just holding on to it, waiting for just the right time to wear it. And it's now, at the state dinner. It's happening. Mikhail also wore David Yurman jewelry to the function. Reportedly, a Washington, D.C. jewelry store had lent her bracelets and rings totaling more than $30,000 and had made 3 separate attempts to get them back. Where's my jewelry, Mikhail? I do believe the store got everything back, as I didn't find any evidence or filings of a lawsuit regarding this. Wouldn't that be something, though? In a February 2010 interview for Australian television, Mikhail told a reporter that her sari would be auctioned for the recent Haiti earthquake relief and reportedly sold at auction for $7,000. So, at least that's something. Tarek and Mikhail entered the state dinner in honor of India's Prime Minister, Manmohan Singh, without an invitation. As I previously mentioned, one of the security checkpoints that they needed to get through required a photo ID, which I am assuming they presented and were able to pass through, if only having a valid ID. A reporter for the Washington Post had surmised that the Salahis were able to slip through because they looked the part and stepped through a cultural blind spot. The Washington Post had quoted an anonymous official as having said, "The Salahis were allowed inside in violation of agency policies by an officer outside the front gate who was apparently persuaded by the couple's manner and persistence, as well as the pressure of keeping lines moving on a rainy evening." This was a planned-out crime of opportunity, executed by taking advantage of the circumstances. Wow. Desiree Rogers, who we had mentioned before as apparently telling Mikhail that she thought the sari was a great idea, had later told the media that a member of her staff was stationed at the main entrance to handle guests who were not on the list, which we know they were not, but she said that neither her staff nor the Secret Service had alerted her about the Salahis. A New York Times article had reported that Desiree Rogers had a staffer posted at the East Portico checkpoint, but not at the first outer checkpoint, which was not usual. Roxanne Roberts, a reporter for the Washington Post, said she recognized the Salahis and wrote, "The minute I realized they were not on the list, I asked a White House staffer to verify their names and explain why they were not on the list. I told the same thing to another staffer a few minutes later. This is before the Salahis went through the receiving with the president, and they could have been pulled aside and quietly questioned." Her suspicion was not acted upon, as media reports indicate. The first the White House security detail knew of their blunder in allowing the Salahis to enter Tuesday's event was when the couple posted photographs from the dinner to their Facebook page. After returning from the White House, Mikhail did in fact post several pictures from the dinner to her Facebook page. Way to keep a low profile. In the following days, they had received a lot of backlash, and as much as they wanted to play this up to a mistake and that they were actually invited, upon investigation, emails were released of a back and forth between the Salahis and their lawyer, basically asking if they could get in, with their lawyer saying there was very little chance. The Salahis allegedly missed the message because their phone died, so they decided to show up and try anyway. It was revealed later that they did communicate with a senior Pentagon official about attending the event, but the official denied that she helped the couple get in. Michelle Jones, a special assistant to Defense Secretary Robert Gates, had said in a written statement which was issued through the White House that she never said or implied that she could or would get the Salahis into the event. She said, "I specifically stated that they did not have tickets, and in fact, I did not have the authority to authorize attendance, admittance, or access to any part of the evening's activities. Even though I informed them of this, they still decided to come." I think my favorite part of this whole ordeal is that if they didn't do this, we would have no idea who they were and wouldn't appreciate what I'm about to say next. So, in September of 2011, Tarek had filed a missing persons report for Mikhail, and he had initially thought that she had been kidnapped because she had called him earlier saying she was on her way home from her mother's house. But she never showed up. But after speaking with her mother, Mikhail never arrived. I know what you're thinking. Oh no! Don't worry. Mikhail had actually run off with Neil from Journey. Yes, that Journey. I remember seeing a video shot by Tarek of Mikhail kissing Neil, like, wow, the foreshadowing. Tarek and Mikhail ended up divorcing on August 20th, 2012, and just a few weeks later, on October 14th, 2012, Neil proposed to Mikhail on stage during a charity concert. They got married the next year on December 15th, 2013, and had a pay-per-view wedding because, of course, I am unsure of actually how many people cared enough to pay $14.95 to watch the wedding. I would love to see those numbers. Anyway, they are still married, and Tarek seems to be doing okay as well. He's currently renting out his house on Airbnb, and he has a travel blog that keeps him busy. It's good to have hobbies. And he has since gotten remarried to his business partner. Her name is Lisa Spoden, and she helps him run their charter cruise ship business. So everyone seems to be doing fine, having not had to face any real consequences, other than, I guess, being judged by the public. And we judge hard. Even though they trespassed on one of the most, if not the most, secure buildings in the United States and entered under obviously false pretenses, nothing really happened to them. I mean, I guess they got the attention that they wanted all these years later. Can you imagine yourself in 2009 wanting attention so bad that you're like, let's trespass somewhere? But not just anywhere. Let's trespass somewhere extreme. And maybe, just maybe, some random girl with a YouTube channel that nobody watches will talk about us in like 2023. I can only imagine. Anyway, that is all I have for you today. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you learned something. Probably not, but I will see you in the next one. Bye. It's 2 wine tours, Michael. What could it cost? $10?